Metro Police say they are seeking more victims of a juvenile probation officer accused of sexual assault of minors. Police say 62-year-old Eddie Wide was arrested last month. He's charged with 2 counts of sexual conduct with a child under his supervision and 1 count of child abuse. Detectives say a teen detainee accused him of repeated sexual contact between January and April, some of it arranged, by text and caught on surveillance video. Wide denied most of the allegations, but did admit to making several bad decisions. He was booked into the Clark County Detention Center. Detectives believe there may be more juvenile victims of Wide. If you have any more information on victims or know anything that you think can help police, you can call Crime Stoppers at the number on your screen, 702-385-5555.